Experiment 7. I have sometimes thought it worthwhile to take notice, whether or no the colours of opacious bodies may not appear to the eye somewhat diversified, not only by the disposition of the superficial parts of the bodies themselves, and by the position of the eye in reference to the object and the light, for these things are notorious enough, but according also to the nature of the lucid body that shines upon them. And I remember that in prosecution of this curiosity, I observed a manifest difference in some kinds of coloured bodies looked on by daylight, and afterwards by the light of the moon, either directly falling on them or reflected upon them from a concave looking-glass. But not finding at present in my collections about colours anything set down of this kind, I shall, till I have opportunity to repeat them, content myself to add that I find registered concerning colours looked on by candlelight in regard that not only the experiment is more easy to be repeated, but the objects being the same sorts of coloured paper lastly mentioned, the collation of these two experiments may help make the conjectures that they will suggest somewhat the less uncertain. Within a few days of the time above mentioned, divers sheets of coloured paper that had been looked upon before in the sunshine were looked upon at night by the light of a pretty big candle, snuffed, and the changes that were observed were these. The yellow seemed much fainter than in the day, and inclinable to a pale straw colour. The red seemed little changed, but seemed to reflect light more strongly than any other colour, for white was none of them. A fair deep green, looked upon by itself, seemed to be a dark blue, but being looked upon together with a dark blue appeared greenish, and beheld together with a yellow appeared more blue than at first. The blue looked more like a deep purple or murrey than it had done in the daylight. The purple seemed very little altered. The red looked upon with the yellow made the yellow look almost like brown cap paper. Note: the caution subjoined to the third experiment is also applicable to this. Experiment 12. If you will allow me, Pyrophilus, for the avoiding of ambiguity, to employ the word pigments, to signify such prepared materials as cochineal, vermilion, orpiment, as painters, dyers, and other artificers make use of to impart or imitate particular colours, I shall be the better understood in diverse passages of the following papers, and particularly when I tell you that the mixing of pigments being no inconsiderable part of the painter's art, it may seem an encroachment in me to meddle with it. But I think I may easily be excused, though I do not altogether pass it by, if I restrain myself to the making of a transient mention of some few of their practices about this matter, and that only so far forth as may warrant me to observe to you that there are but few simple and primary colours, if I may so call them, from whose various composition all the rest do as it were result. For though painters can imitate the hues, though not always the splendour, of those most numberless differing colours that are to be met with in the works of nature and of art, I have not yet found that to exhibit this strange variety they need to employ any more than white, and black, and red, and blue, and yellow, these 5 variously compounded, and if I may so speak, decompounded, being sufficient to exhibit a variety and number of colours, such as those that are altogether strangers to the painter's palettes can hardly imagine.